my friends, and welcome back to the garden. My name is Kat. I'm a suburban gardener growing on a quarter-acre lot here in New Jersey. In case this is your first time with us here at the garden, I have a 16-foot by 40-foot space that I garden in. I have approximately 9 raised beds of varying sizes, and also I plant bulbs and other things in ground as well. So, welcome to the garden, and let's start the September garden tour. So along the fence line here, I have 4 3-foot by 5-foot beds. In this herb bed, I have planted sage, lemon thyme, rosemary, and lavender. It's my intent to fill out the rest of the bed with additional herbs, maybe duplicating and having more rosemary and more lavender, etc., so that I can fill out this whole bed eventually. But for now, I have snapdragons here, which are lovely. They have been blooming since I planted them this spring. So after the blooms ended in spring, I didn't cut them back. I left the plants in and they branched off. It flopped over and we have all of the branching stems reaching up towards the light, which is pretty cool. In the neighboring bed, I have statice growing as well as stalks still planted there. You'll also see that I have this ginormous sunflower and a zucchini plant in this bed. So it's definitely been sort of a mishmash of different plants so far this season. I don't think I'll be taking out the giant sunflower. The reason I'll be leaving it is because the seeds that are in there are going to be a great food source for the birds throughout this fall and winter. Usually what happens with my sunflowers is when spring comes and the plant is completely dead, it's very easy to twist out, so I just leave them. I mean, the only reason you would want to take it out anyway is probably aesthetics, and honestly, I'm just not that kind of gardener. The zucchini plant that I have there, I'm also going to just kind of leave until the ginormous zucchini begins to change colors and harden a little bit, and eventually I know that it will be ready to harvest and use as a seed source for my zucchini next year. I only planted this variety of squash in my garden this year, so while I know that it's possible my neighbors could also plant other varieties of squash, I feel rather confident that this probably wasn't cross-pollinated, so I think that if I'm gonna save seeds for a zucchini, this is probably the best time to do it, right? Smash that like button down below if you agree with me. All right, so the bed next to this one is sort of going to be a theme of winter greens. I have the 2 existing kale plants that are already there, that are doing their thing. And if you were with me on our last vlog, you saw that we sowed some spinach seeds, as well as cilantro and basil and calendula in this bed. So that's pretty exciting. I feel like I'm starting to see some signs of germination. It's only been about a week, but this is great. This is good news. So I'm very excited because spinach does so well in our area, and it does fantastic in my garden specifically. It overwinters really well, and then in the spring the plants just spring to life. You know, I don't know how else to say that. They go absolutely bonkers, and I get these huge big spinach leaves. So I'm very excited for the spinach crop. Rounding out this row of raised beds against the fence is my white trellis bed that I have here. Again, on our last vlog, you know that we went ahead and sowed some peas on one side of the trellis. It is my intent to come in here, clear everything out, break out all of these strawberries that are superfluous at this point and go ahead and replant the strawberries in other parts of the garden, but also get this bed ready for the fall, maybe plant something in it. I'm not entirely sure right now, but I would like to put more peas on the other side of the trellis, so hopefully we can get more peas for the season. All right, we're gonna backtrack a little bit, and I'm gonna go ahead now and walk you down through the house side of the garden. So we'll start here with this pepper bed. Now originally, when I had talked to you guys about the pepper bed, my intent was to keep the pepper bed until our first frost and just let the frost wipe out the peppers. And given that they've already been so productive throughout the year, and I've been able to can a lot of pickled peppers and use these peppers up for various dinners, I just don't see the value anymore in keeping it any longer. Not to mention the fact that this bed has a frame and a greenhouse cover that goes over it. I feel like I would be crazy not to take advantage of that for the fall and use this to plant something else. So given that information, I have decided to change my mind and cut the peppers out of this bed and replant something in this bed soon. And here she is, Dollia row in her magnificence. So I started these dahlias from seed, and as you can tell, they have just completely taken off, which I have loved. I am going to dig up the tubers and try to save them because I just really liked the colors. It was a beautiful blend of basically a lot of warm tones, a lot of pinks, reds, oranges, yellows. Basically, it had my favorite color palette in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and dig up the tubers and store them. I won't be planting the dahlias here again though. So as you can tell, it is extremely hard to walk, and the idea is that I need to have pathways around the perimeter of my garden and through my garden so that it is easier for me to move and just utilize the space. So while I appreciate that I gave it a shot and I know that they will grow amazing in ground in my clay soil, I just don't think that I want to do that again because it's kind of a cluster, not gonna lie. Ah, yes, the lone tomato bed. They have a lot of strawberries, snapdragons, as well as stock flowers in this bed. Originally, I had planted a lot of onions, and obviously the strawberries shot out runners and took over. We harvested those onions. I am going to leave this tomato plant until last frost, only because it is literally my last tomato plant of the season. The bed next to this one is my perennial flower bed. I have echinacea, or purple cone flower, in this bed, along with a variety of Heliopsis called Sunburst. I like this variety of Heliopsis. It's interesting to me because the leaves are strongly variegated with white in a very cool pattern. So it's just a fun flower. I do have a lone kale plant in here that I would like to cut back, as in chop off all of its leaves and leave the stem. I'll be able to cover it at that point and keep it safe from all the cabbage worms and the whitefly that have decided to just build an apartment complex on this kale plant. All right, we have made it to the butt of the garden. The 2x8 that's closest to the fence here, you know that I emptied out all of my container potting soil that I had from those green stalks in here. I broke that up. I did leave the marigold here in the corner. My hope is that the peas that I planted are eventually going to take off and climb up on the trellis that I had here that I used for the tomatoes. And for the rest of the bed, I was going to sprinkle a lettuce leaf salad mix that I have, and I was just going to go ahead and kind of cover that, and we'll see what we get. The 2x8 here against the house has my grapevine in it, as well as one of my dahlia tubers that I planted. So what I'm gonna do is, again, before the frost comes, I'm going to dig up the dahlia, but I am gonna focus on this grapevine and get it trellised. It's my hope that I will get this done before the winter, and the only thing that I am ever gonna plant in these 2x8 beds at that point moving forward is maybe onions or garlic, something that won't really get too shaded out by the grapevine leaves, and something that will still grow. As always, these blackberries are just the MVP. A few years ago when I had planted them, we had them over by our downspout back here, but we dug them out and we relocated them so that they wouldn't kind of like mess with the foundation and the siding of the house as they were growing. Because they were so close to the house, they were kind of getting under our siding slats there and getting stuck. So just not ideal, not what you want to have to deal with as a homeowner. Last but not least is sort of my mini container orchard. I would like to do a longer video about my container orchard in the future, but for right now I have apple. I have a lot of different kinds of apples. I also have a pear tree that is in a container. It is a cross-pollinator for the other two pear trees that I have in ground up front. I also have a cherry tree. It is a self-pollinating cherry tree, a pie cherry. So this one will be a little bit tartar and can be something that I use to can either maraschino cherries or pie filling. The one apple tree that I have, as you already know, the Red Rome Beauty, gave us our first apple in the garden this year. I still have it actually, we haven't eaten it. Apples do store well, so like you can keep them for a little while. Look at her! That's the one apple we got from the garden, and I'm so excited. I love you. That concludes our September garden tour for today. Thank you so much, my friends, for walking through the garden with me today and taking a look at everything that we've got growing on. Catch you next time.